What is going on, everyone? James Hancock here. I'm back to review Bong Joon-ho's new movie Parasite, which opens in the US this weekend. I had a chance to see it last week at the New York Film Festival, and alongside The Irishman, it was the film that I was most excited to see at the festival. Earlier this year, Parasite became the first Korean film to win the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, but as soon as I saw the trailer, I knew there was a very good chance I'd be into this movie. I adore dark comedies, and on that front, this film does not disappoint. I absolutely howled like a crazy person through so much of this movie, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Parasite popping up on a lot of people's top 10 lists for the year, including my own. I've only seen a few of Bong Joon-ho's movies so far, but I love his ability to hop between genres or blend genres together. The Host gave us a fantastic giant monster scenario, while Snowpiercer explored an incredibly compelling dystopian future. My understanding is that Mother and Memories of Murder are fantastic as well, but I've not had a chance to see them yet. My favorite Korean filmmaker is probably still Park Chan-wook due to movies like Old Boy and The Handmaiden, but who knows? If Bong Joon-ho keeps cranking out movies like Parasite, I might have to revisit that comparison. That said, a little healthy competition between filmmakers is always a good thing. In any event, on the surface, Parasite is a comedy about a family who discovers an unexpected aptitude as con artists as they slowly but surely take over all the available jobs in a wealthy household, often at the expense of those already working there. But calling the film just a dark comedy doesn't completely do the film justice. Parasite is one of the most beautifully shot films of the year, and like a lot of classic screwball comedies from the golden age of Hollywood, movies like My Man Godfrey, Parasite offers some really interesting insights into the distinctions between various social classes and how they interact. But like any great satirical movie, nobody gets out of this movie totally unscathed. What it reminded me of a little bit was Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game, which ignited a firestorm of controversy back in 1939 due to its satirical depiction of all levels of French society. While totally different in style, Parasite's definitely playing in the same sandbox as that earlier classic. And if this is all starting to sound a little bit too artsy as opposed to entertainment, not to worry. This film is absolutely hysterical and in no way, shape, or form feels like a lecture and will most likely keep you entertained from start to finish. With its increasingly bizarre and delirious scenarios, I really only have one or two reservations about the movie, where for me, toward the end of the story, the film begins switching gears tonally so quickly and so abruptly, I no longer felt like I was on quite as sure footing as I was for the first hour and a half or so. I might be in the minority on this, and perhaps this feeling would be erased upon a second viewing, but for me, the first two-thirds of this film was so masterfully constructed and so perfectly executed that it ended up feeling just a little bit ambivalent about how Bong Joon-ho chose to wrap up the movie. So if you've seen the trailer, you already have a really good idea of what to expect from the movie. Honestly, it'd be a better idea just to watch the trailer instead of listening to this review because it does a brilliant job of capturing the tone and the setup of the first half of the movie. But I'm going to be going into some mild spoiler territory here, so bail out now if that's a problem for you. Also, I need to apologize in advance if I butchered the correct pronunciation of any of these actors' names, but when we first meet the heroes of our story, the family's down on their luck, struggling to get by, basically living below ground in abject squalor in a bug-infested apartment, frequently resorting to squeezing into the most bizarre corners imaginable just to try and find some free Wi-Fi. But they're not depicted as people who need our sympathy or pity. They're surprisingly upbeat and have an incredible bond. And throughout the movie, whether in feast or famine, these characters clearly would rather be nowhere else than in each other's company. The opportunity to change their lives suddenly gets dropped in their laps when the son, Ki-woo, is asked by a friend to take over his job as the English tutor for the astronomically wealthy Park family. Ki-woo has to fake his credentials a bit with Mrs. Park, but she's a deliciously eccentric woman who's a tad on the gullible side, and soon Ki-woo is not only actively working at the house and trying to seduce his new pupil, but he's also campaigning to get his sister, Ki-jung, a gig as the art tutor for the Park family's youngest child. Like her brother, she also has to fake her credentials, and this is where the movie really comes to life. Ki-jung is played by So-dan Park, and as great as her co-stars might be as they all move into their various positions in the Park household, So-dan Park frequently comes close to stealing the movie entirely. She is the best fuck it, I don't give a shit personality I've seen in movies in quite some time, but when it's time to take the job at hand seriously, she becomes this master criminal and master psychologist. She and her family are so resourceful at conning people, it makes you wonder how they ended up poor in the first place. At night, they hurl themselves into their work, rehearsing all of their roles for the following day, almost like they're the world's greatest filmmakers, and then on the job, they prove to be masters at manipulating the emotions of their employers, squeezing in extra days, or just earning their undying loyalty. But what makes this situation so hysterical is that it seems as if their love of food, booze, and each other's company might be the only real thing standing in their way. They are the heavyweight champions of just hanging out, and there are no lengths they won't go to hang on to their meal ticket once they're entrenched in their new positions. Now, I'm about to go into massive spoilers that are only hinted at in the trailer, so definitely jump ship if you don't want the second half of the film spoiled for you. But this film finds that extra special gear of total insanity once the family realizes that they are not the only con artists exploiting this family. The former nanny, who they get fired by exploiting her natural allergy to peaches, she's been hiding her husband in the tunnels beneath the house for years. And apparently that's a pretty common thing in South Korea, where wealthy households will have places to hide in case North Korea ever invades. But the whole con starts falling apart at the seams the night of this heavy rainstorm, when the nanny insists on getting into the house because she's trying to save the life of her husband, who's gone without food for a couple days at this point. And as you're watching the movie, your eyes just start going wider and wider, and your jaw starts dropping lower and lower as the nanny's screaming through the house saying like, "Honey, honey!" And you start to realize, oh my God, like I thought this movie was weird, but it's going to get so much stranger before all's said and done. But as we soon see, as a result, our heroes have to go to war with the nanny and her husband in order to maintain their positions, but it all has to be done discreetly because the Parks suddenly are back in the house after making an unexpected return due to their camping trip getting rained out. And it's during these scenes where the movie just goes to that special weird place where most movies fear to go, where you've got characters hiding under tables while a couple's making out on the couch, talking about all sorts of weird sexual stuff, where you've got the little boy camping out in the rain to refusing to come inside, and the girl upstairs just looking for a boyfriend who's hiding downstairs. The movie's just filled with so much manic energy at this point, it threatens to rip apart the seams. And if you have a taste for unconventional, subversive comedy, you'll just be cackling with evil, maniacal glee nonstop. But like I said before, my only problem is near the very end of this movie where everything flies off the rails for our heroes. While the movie's been dark all along, suddenly the comedy disappears entirely in favor of some violence and tragedy that, purely from my subjective point of view, seem to clash with the rest of the movie's tone. In my opinion, the movie ends on a bit of a whimper, but this is a very minor grievance for such a great movie. Parasite is easily one of the most unpredictable, bizarre, and satisfying films of the year. If you're one of those people out there who's been looking forward to seeing this movie, you're going to be smiling from ear to ear while you watch Parasite. It makes me intensely excited to see what else Bong Joon-ho might be cooking up for us in the future. But I think that's all I have to say for now. The New York Film Festival has been an absolute blast, but The Irishman and Parasite are my two favorites by far. But I will be seeing Motherless Brooklyn on Friday. But if you enjoyed this reaction and review, please give me a shout on Twitter at Colbrax. Give the video a like, subscribe to the channel. That's very helpful to me. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. But more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.